Discuss about change of coordinate or change of basis. So change of basis is very important when suppose you are having a transformation where a basis doesn't look, or simply if you consider a data set and you do a scattering plot after having your scatter plot of that data set, it would look like there is a need of a change in orientation. So in order to change the orientation, you can bring all that orientation or desired orientation or simple orientation with the help of linear transformation. So that's way we will discuss from that perspective. Again, if you observe, if you if you are going to measure real time data set, then suppose if it is height and weight, then definitely there would be measurement issue. Height is having different unit and weight is having different unit. So you need to make things uniform. So if you are willing to make things uniform, you need to apply a scaling kind of operator. That a scaling operator is what it is, one kind of linear transformation. Similarly, if you observe that you took a image, and what is happening that due to some deficiency, what will happen that image would be not come in a proper way. There would be some change in angle or something like that means there might be a little bit deformation on some noisy kind of things. So what will happen, again you need to apply a rotational transformation kind of thing in order to bring in a proper shape, so that you can get a maximum application of that image. So there are many application of linear transformation in general. And till now, what linear transformation we had studied, we studied only up to vector space, that a space of vectors. What vectors, 2D 3D kind of vectors or space vectors. But here we will generalize the concept of linear transformation to any kind of linear space or vector space, where vector might be a polynomial or might be uh, function, or might be differentiable function, might be a sequence, or might be a L2 sequence. That means L2 convergent sequence. Sum of a square happens to be converging, and there would be many different kind of variety of linear space we will see here, and the corresponding subspaces we will see there as well. So I'm coming to outline of my today's lectures. I would like to give recap of what we had discussed in last class, that basis, dimension and coordinate. And then I will go to discuss in detail regarding linear transformation. And among the linear transformation, I will talk about very specific linear transformation, that we call it isomorphic linear transformation. So isomorphic, it means that the dimension of domain and target set both happens to be same, and kernel of isomorphic transformation happens to be a singleton set that contains only zero element. Isomorphic, isomorphic is playing very important role. So why we are defining that, because we had already seen that if you are taking any kind of in a n-dimensional linear space or a vector space, you can always map to that n-dimensional vector space to Euclidean space, or Euclidean space Rn, with respect to coordinate. And coordinate all it is always defined with respect to some basis. So that's way that coordinate transformation we happens to be isomorphic in nature. Isomorphic, simply you can say that one to one correspondence. Another name of a linear transformation which is having one to one correspondence, then that linear transformation we will call it isomorphic, and the corresponding linear spaces we will call it isomorphic linear spaces. One to one correspondence, so that you had already seen in your high school, that what is meaning of one to one correspondence. So coming to recap of basic dimension and coordinate of a linear space. So I will take more examples. So here, if you consider V, it is having a basis with dimension n, then all other bases of V will also contain exactly n element. That's why, due to invariancy of this number of element in every basis of a vector space or linear space, we call that invariant number n is the dimension of the corresponding linear space or vector space. So I had taken one example in last class that it is R2 by 2 is what it is talking about collection of all the 2 by 2 matrices with real entry. And if you also we have to determine what would be dimension of this one. So in order to do that you take any so we had taken any general matrix A B C D, and that ABCD it was written as a linear combination of three spatial these four spatial matrices, and these spatial matrices forming the basis of the linear space R2 by 2, and we had already seen all these, and also these matrices, what are the relation? These matrices are also non-redundant. That means these matrices are also linearly independent uh, due to zero component types. So we can claim we had already claimed that these four matrices forms a basis of R, R2 by 2, and that's way there are four elements in the basis. So dimension of the vector space or linear space of this linear space it was 4. So now I had also given a diagrammatic view. That means you take any general element and always put as a linear combination of very few or fixed number of vector from the given vector space or linear space V, and after that what you do, find the coefficient of all those special element. So what are the coefficient of this matrix 2 by 2 matrix in this space coefficient in term of this basis element? So this basis element you can call it is V1, and this one is V2, V3, and V4, or otherwise you can call it F1, F2, F3. There is no issue, and V4. So what we observe that this matrix is what? It is a linear combination of uh, V1 plus V2 plus V3, C times V3 plus D times V4. Now from here, simply if I ask what is the coordinate of this matrix, a given matrix A, B, C, D, coordinate of this matrix, call this matrix A, or give some name, this matrix call it V. We denote, so any element of vector space, simply you can denote it by F or V, whatever representation you would like to take. I am taking V because V means vector. So that's way this matrix we denote it by V. But here remember that I had mentioned matrix always we will denote in linear algebra by capital letter. But here this matrix itself an element of this collection of 2 by 2 matrices. So that's why we are giving a representation of small b, a small b equal to this matrix. So a small b is a linear combination of this one. So we will call that what is the coordinate of v with respect to this basis of R2 by 2. So just coordinate we denote it by this way, this square bracket, then we put suffix in suffix the basis. So this beta is the basis. So here what would be, what is the coordinate of this vector with respect to basis element? So this one is your V1, this one is your V2, this one is your V3, and last matrix in the basis set is V4. So what is the coordinate of V with respect to V1, V2, V3 as a linear combination? So first coordinate is what? A, which is multiple of V1, and second coordinate is what? B, which is multiple of or which is coefficient of V2. Second coordinate is C, which is coefficient of V3, and third coordinate is D. It is that one is coefficient of V4. So you got the coordinate vector. So this vector you can call it coordinate vector of V with respect to basis element. That means vector which are in the basis set. coordinate vector, you can call it. So always this coordinate vector always define a linear transformation, that we are calling it coordinate transformation. So here, and that coordinate transformation we denote it by L beta. L beta, and it is written as, so it simply says that f has been mapped to four-dimensional vector ABCD having component ABCD. So that is the criteria of defining coordinate transformation. So I will take one more example. Now consider P2. P2 is what? It is a collection of all polynomial of degree up to 2. So we have to also derive the dimension of P2. What would be dimension of P2? So we know that every here P2 contains a polynomial of degree up to 2, which can be written as, so this polynomial you can say that a plus bx plus cx square, it can be written as a times 1 plus b times x plus c times x square. So what we will observe that every polynomial happens to be multiple of 1x and x square. So 1x and x square all together, that means this mononomial 1 is also mononomial. What is the degree of 1? Degree of 1 is 0. And what is degree of this x? Degree of x is 1. That's why it is a linear mononomial, and degree of x square is 2. So this one is also quadratic mononomial. So mononomial is what? It is a polynomial having single term. So we can easily see that the mononomial monomial 1x and x square, it span P2. That means collection of all polynomial of degree up to 2. So any polynomial of degree of up to 2 you can write as a linear combination of these three monomials 1x and x square. So that's why these are candidate of being basis of P2, because these are also polynomial as well. 1x and x square happens to be polynomial. So these are candidate of being basis of P2. And also we can observe that 1x and x square are linearly independent. How you can establish linearly independent? So that is the criteria. So regarding factor, if you are having three factor, easily you can establish linearly independent of three vector or four vector by solving corresponding linear relation, where relation was v times alpha equal to 0. V happens to be a matrix whose column are coming from the given vector. But here in place of vector, here we are having function, and how we can establish linear dependency between these function. So if you are having two function, only two function, suppose f1 and f2, then how can you claim that these two function would be linearly independent? It means that if you are not getting function one from function other just by a scalar multiple, that means a scale, not variable multiple, not a scalar multiple, then you can say that f1 and f2 are linearly independent. So if you are unable to write one function as a linear combination of another function, it simply says that f1 and f2 are linearly independent. That one is just a very simple kind of result, but it is not a generalized result. So what is the generalized result? You have to find Wronskian. So here, because f1 is not written in term of linear combination of f2, so that's why f1 and f2 are linearly independent. That means I am writing in short form L dot I dot linearly independent. So how can you define linearly independent? There are many ways. One approach I would like to say that what you do, take a linear combination similar to what you had already studied in case of vectors. So take linear combination of these monomials. So linear combination would be alpha 1 time 1. So alpha 1 time 1, it would be just uh, alpha alpha 1 alpha 1 time 1 plus alpha 2 times treat these monomials as a vector. Alpha 2 times, what is your second monomials? It is x. Alpha 2 times x plus alpha 3 times x square equal to 0. Same linear relation we are forming now, but here it is a linear relation in term of not fixed vector, it is in term of function. So that means x is here variable. So if due to variability of x, what we will do, we can differentiate this given linear relation with respect to x. So if you differentiate once, what you will get, you will get another equation, because you are having three unknown here, and you need to get those here alpha 1, alpha 2, alpha 3, these are unknown, you need to get those value. So how can you get? So differentiate with respect to x. So if after differentiating, what you will get, you will get your second equation. That one is this term, it would be 0, because there is no x term is here, and here it is there is a linear term, so only alpha 2 would come, and in second last term you will get it 2 times alpha 3 x, because derivative of x square is twice of x. And right hand side we are having 0, derivative of 0 is always 0. Now again we will get one more equation. How? Differentiate this one more time. So after, if you differentiate one more time, what you will get? You will get alpha 3, twice of alpha 3 equal to 0. Right hand side is 0, so derivative of 0 is always 0. So from third equation you conclude that alpha 3 is equal to 0. Alpha 3 is equal to 0. Now put alpha 3 in second equation. So put this alpha 3 equal to 0 in second equation. From here what you will get? You will get alpha 2 is 0, and put alpha 2 equal to 0 and alpha 3 equal to 0 in the first equation. Then from first equation, what you will get? You will get that alpha 1 equal to 0. That means it simply says that the linear relation of these three functions or these three polynomial having only zero possible, zero linear combination. There is no non-zero linear combination. It is having only zero solution, trivial solution. That's way these function or these polynomial 1, x and x square, these three are linearly independent. Also, we had already seen that any polynomial of degree up to 2 can be written as a linear combination of these three monomials, and also these three are linearly independent. So we can say that these three forms a basis of P2. So that's why basis of P2, that polynomial up to degree 2, it what is basis? Basis is, this is the basis having first basis polynomial 1, second x, and third x square. It forms a basis of P2. With now how many element you observe in this basis? You observe 3. That's way the dimension of P2 would be 3. You got the idea of dimension as well, you got the basis. So simply you can say that P2 is that means P2 is having relation with R3, three-dimensional, because R3 is also having dimension 3. That's why definitely there is a relation. That means if you want to find coordinate of any polynomial of degree 2, then that coordinate would be a three-dimensional vector. So if you want to find a coordinate vector of any polynomial, suppose I might have taken this. Okay, so here you can observe that I have taken already. So take any general polynomial of degree up to 2. So you can write it like this way: a times 1 plus b times x plus c times x square. So that means here basis of P2 is what? Basis of P2 is 1, x and x square. So call it 1. call one F1 and second basis element F2 and third basis element F3. F3. So in that perspective, you can say that fx is, that means simply write in, I would like to omit, I don't need to write x. It is understood that polynomial, it would be x will come here. So f is a linear combination of what? A times f1 plus b times f2 plus c times f3. That means we can able to find basis or coordinate vector of f. So what is the coordinate vector of f? That means we will put f in the bracket. That is the notation of coordinate vector. So coordinate vector of f with respect to this basis, this underlying basis is what? Just select, find out coefficient of the corresponding basis element. So what is the coefficient of first basis element f1? Is A, coefficient of second basis element is B, coefficient of third basis element is C. So that's why coordinate vector of F is a three-dimensional vector, and due to that coordinate transformation, we see there is a 1-1 correspondent between P2 and what R2 through coordinate vector. So we are having the following strategy, how we can find. So find a coordinate vector or coordinate transformation for a given vector space. So we need to write down a typical element of V in terms of some arbitrary constant. Then in a step 2, using that arbitrary constant as coefficient, we have to express our typical element as a linear combination of some special element of the given vector space, and we have to verify that those special element happens to be linearly independent and form a basis of the vector space. So these three steps we can generalize from the previous examples. So through these three steps we can find basis of a general linear space, and we can find coordinate vector as well. So we, your ultimate idea is find the basis, then find the coordinate vector. So I would like to take one more example. The question is that you have to find the basis and dimension of a linear space V of all matrices that commute with these matrices. How can you find? So step 1 is what? It says that take any general matrix from V. So that means V is what? It is talking about, it is a collection of all 2 matrices B such that B commute with the given matrix A. That means B times A equal to A times B. So this is the V. What we are having? It is V is the collection of all 2 by 2 matrices which commute with A. This is our V. So in V we will take any general matrix 2 by 2 matrix from V, and we will try to express this matrix as a linear combination of some specific, some special, better call it a special element from B. So for that, here picture is not very much clear, so just we will because V is coming from this matrix is coming from V, so definitely this matrix will commute A. So that means this matrix time A equal to A times the same matrix. And if you simplify this, if you take product of this matrix, the product is very simple. What you do, multiply this row with this column, and what you will get? You will get 2B, and multiply this row further with this second column of the given matrix, then you will get this A plus 3B. Similarly, multiply CD with 2, you will get 2D, and multiply CD with 1 3, you will get C plus 3D. And similarly, in right hand side, you will get this product matrix. But from the concept of equality of 2 matrix, what you will observe this equation. It says that 2b equal to c and ab a plus 3b equal to d, and you can observe that last two relation happens to be redundant. Why? These are depend upon first two. So that's why last two equation are redundant. So we don't know need these two. We can truncate these two equation. After that, what we will observe that we will get a special pattern or form of the matrix from V. So what is that? So this matrix having entry A, B, C, D can be written as A, B, 2b and a plus 3c, and if you take a common, then your general matrix from V can be written as a linear combination of 1 0 0 1 and 0 2 1 3. So every matrix, so simply you have already got a picture that every matrix of V can be written as a linear combination of these two matrices. So call this matrix is V1, or simply you can say for general perspective you can call it this matrix is F1, because we are going to define general linear space, and this matrix call it F2. So what you observe, so you got two a special matrix. You can verify that this matrix F1 definitely it will commute with A, and F2 will also commute with A. It is a homework, you can verify yourself. So F1 times A equal to A times F1. Easily you can verify. It is very simple to verify. What is this matrix? Further, if you try to see closely, this matrix ident 2 by 2 identity matrix. So you can call F1 is what? Your identity matrix. So I2 you can call it, because it is a 2 by 2 identity matrix, so you can call it I2. And what is F2? F2 is just given set A. That means basis of the given a space V is what? It is having only two matrices. One matrix is identity matrix, 2 by 2 identity matrix, call it I2. Another matrix, the given matrix A itself. So these two matrices forming basis of the collection of all the 2 by 2 matrices which commute with A. So you got the basis. Next, we will find the coordinate. So here we can find the coordinate of, so coordinate is very easy. So what kind of, so what would be dimension of the last vector space? How many element you observe? So just two elements. So dimension of V, it would be just two. Dimension of last vector space, linear space, it would be two, because there are only two element in the basis. So that's where dimension is two. And you, if you are taking any element from V, then we are able to write this one. So call this element A, B, C, D, call it F. So this one is your F. F equal to this matrix A, B, any general matrix A, B, having entry A, B, C, D, and you are able to write this matrix as a linear combination of 1, 0, identity matrix 0, 1 plus B time A. So if I ask what is the coordinate of F with respect to this basis, so you can say that A times I plus B time A. So what is the coordinate of F with respect to this basis? So coordinate of F, this matrix, it is what? Just two dimensional column vector. So coordinate of F with respect to the underlying basis is having only two entry. First entry is A, second entry is V. So two dimensional vector. So you can say that V is having one to one correspondence with R2. Despite of that V containing 2 by 2 matrices, but we know that V is spanned by only two matrices. So that's why there is one to one correspondence between with R2. Now I will talk about coordinate transformation and in general linear transformation. So So we have to further again same question here. I am coming to describe. That means find the uh, coordinate transformation for V. V is what? It is a collection of all 2 by 2 matrices which commute with A. A is given here. So through this relation, you had already come across that basis of this linear space or vector space is having only two entries or two elements. Sorry, two element. One is identity matrix, another is the matrix A itself, which define V. Now coming to linear transformation. So linear transformation, again I would like to say that it is a map from in order to define linear transformation, you need two linear space or subspace. So say suppose V and W are two subspaces, then we define a linear transformation from V to W, and we call it is a linear transformation. Why? Because T preserve the linear combination operation. If a T preserve linear combination operation, that means image of a linear combination of any two element from the domain space happens to be linear combination of the element in the corresponding target space. So that's why T is a linear transformation, and subspaces with respect to this linear transformation are uh, image of T. That means it is collection of Tx such that X is coming from the domain space, and kernel, that means pre-image of 0 of the target space, pre-image of 0. So these two are very important kind of subspaces in any linear space. And what will happen here, I haven't mentioned that sometime here V may be finite dimensional. That means number of element in basis would be finite or maybe infinite dimensional. So depends upon nature of linear space, we will define Sylvester law. So it suppose it happens that if image is finite dimensional, then image of T we will, if it is finite dimensional, the dimension of image of T we will call it rank of the associated linear transformation. Similarly, if kernel of that linear transformation is finite dimensional, then dimension of that transformation we will dimension of kernel of T we will call it nullity of that transformation. Now, suppose it happens that if our linear space is finite dimensional, then it will satisfy Sylvester law. This is the Sylvester law, so it will satisfy. Remember that if provided the given linear space is finite dimensional, then it will satisfy Sylvester law. Otherwise, we will, if V is not a finite dimensional, we will not talk about Sylvester law. So I will give here few example of infinite dimensional linear space. One one such example is collection of all infinitely smooth function. That means V here C infinity containing function like exponential function, polynomial function, uh, and sine, cosine, trigonometrical kind of function, especially sine and cosine kind of function. So why? Because those function you can differentiate infinitely many times. So that's where C infinity is a collection of infinitely many smooth function. A smooth is related with, a smooth is a calculus word, very nice word. It is related with differentiability. How much, that means a smooth with how much that function is a smooth. That means that function is differentiable. Uh, differentiable. So a smooth word is very much associated with differentiability, and it define a linear transformation from C infinity to C infinity such that T of x equal to f dash. So this linear transformation is, that means, defined by derivative of the function. So derivative of a function is always a linear transformation. Once I had already discussed that if you take any two function x, suppose an x square, okay, and what you do, sum these two functions and then differentiate these two functions. D I am taking it. What is the result? Result is 1 plus 2x. It is one operation. Another operation, what you do? Take x, differentiate. What you will get? 1. Take x square. differentiate, what you will get 2x. Then what you do, sum these two derivative, that means dx plus dx square, that means here. So what would be sum would be 1 plus 2x. So it simply says that whether you do derivative before addition or after addition, the result is same in both cases. So that's why derivative is a linear operator. Linearly, it preserve linearity. That means it preserve linear combination. If you take alpha times beta, there would be no issue. So it preserve linearity. So always alpha times beta, it always preserve linearity. So alpha, so here alpha will come here, and here beta times 2x will come here. So that kind of things you will observe it. So that it always preserve linearity. So that's why derivative is a linear operator. That proof I had already given here. So t of so take any two function from c infinity, that means f and g are infinitely a smooth function, that means sine cosine kind of function or exponential kind of function. Then you apply operator over uh, this t operator linear transformation over linear combination of f and g, and you know that f and g happens to be function, then it always demand for domain element. That's why domain element is coming here. Now with respect to this operation, what would be, so it says that where t is what derivative of operation. So that means once you apply t over this linear combination of f and g, that then it will talk about differentiating these two functions. After differentiating, what you will get, you will get this f alpha times f dash x and plus beta times g dash x. And what if you individually try to see, it is a linear combination of image of f plus linear combination image of f and image of g. So that is the criteria. That means derivative operation is always a linear transformation over collection of infinitely a smooth function over C infinity. So your vector space is C infinity. Similarly, you can say that what would be subspaces. So we need to calculate subspaces of this one. That means image of t. What would be image of t? So image of t, it would become as, it will define as t of f such that f is coming from the domain of space C infinity. So domain of C infinity. So that means f such that f dash. It means that we know that if f is coming from C infinity, then definitely f dash will exist. That's why image of this linear transformation, that means derivative linear transformation with respect to this vector space, will be the vector space itself. Now if you are coming to find kernel of the this derivative linear transformation, what would do that? That means we have to find all those functions whose derivative becomes 0. So what are those functions? Those functions actually are constant functions. If you take a constant function, what would be derivative of a constant function? So kernel of this derivative operate linear transformation is what? It is just a constant function. So constant function, if you try to observe from the perspective of one dimensional vector, so k you can write it like this one, a k times 1. 1 is uh, 1 is what? It is a function having taking only one value for every x. So you can say that your kernel is what? One dimensional subspace. So f of x equal to 1. So your kernel happens to be one dimensional, but your image is infinite dimensional. We are unable to find a finite dimension of image of this derivative operator, but the kernel is having dimension 1. So it doesn't satisfy Sylvester law. We will not talk about Sylvester law when your vector space or linear space happens to be infinite dimensional. Okay, another example I would like to take. So another infinite dimensional space is collection of all continuous function defined over the closed and bounded interval 0 1. And here what is the operation? Operation is integral operation. So integral is also defining a linear transformation. Integral is always a linear transformation. And we know that if you are from the calculus, you know that if you there is a function which is defined in a closed and bounded interval, then that function is always integrable. Continuity always implies integrability. So due to that, this transformation is well defined. There is no issue. So now we will see that whether this one is a linear transformation or not. So for that perspective, we will take any two element from this space of continuous function over 0 1, and we will apply linear transformation over linear combination of those two elements, and it will come across that it satisfies linearity property. That means this integral operator preserve linearity. So that's where the integral operation, it is a linear operation. Now similarly we will find what would be image set and kernel set of this linear transformation. So image set of this one would be what? It would be what? Image of a integral transform, it happens to be a fixed real number because you are integrating, it is a definite integral. So definite integral is always taking a fixed number, so it is a real number. Real number, that means you can call this real number p equal to p or something like that. So it is a real number. That means what it means, real number is what is the dimension of real number? It is 1. So that's why image of t happens to be real number. It is equal to real number. That means image of t is what? One dimensional space. But what is the kernel of t? So it is collection of all those functions which are having integral 0 over the interval 1 to 0 to 1. So there are many variety of function. Suppose various function will here, it is not a uh, not a singleton set. Apart from that, it will have many elements. So suppose you, for example, take the one function x minus 1 1 by 2. What would be integral of this one over the interval 0 to 1? So integral of this one would be what? So if you integrate over the interval 0 1, so it will take form x square by 2 minus x by 2, and it is a definite integral. You have to put the limit. Lower limit is 0, upper limit is 1. So if you put 1, so what would be 1 by 2 minus 1 by 2? 1 by 2 minus 1 by 2 is again 0, and if you put lower limit 0, then that would be 0 plus 0. So integral, that means simply I would like to say that integral of the function x minus 1 by 2 over the interval 0 1 is what? 0. So this function is coming in this here kernel. So there are many function here. So again this kernel, it would be infinite dimensional because there it will contains infinitely many basis of this one will be infinitely infinite dimensional, because infinitely many element will come in the basis of kernel of T. So that's why it is a very special kind of subspace of uh, this C01. That means collection of continuous function as a vector space. So these are all infinite dimensional vector space. So here one more infinite dimensional vector space I am taking it here. I am talking about collection of infinite sequence. So collection of infinite sequence, it forms always a linear space or vector space. So over this vector space we can define a linear transformation by shifting. So what we do, here we are taking a sequence which is a starting point is first term is x0, then it will go on. So sequence we are taking sequence like this x0 x1 xk up to it will go on up to infinity. So there are infinite, it is an infinite sequence. So what is image of this one? We will just truncate, we will leave the first term x0 and remaining term will be there. So it is again an infinite sequence. If you are leaving any one term of the infinite sequence, then again it would be infinite sequence. So the linear transformation is defined by this way. Then we will try to see that whether this one is a linear transformation. So definitely it will be a linear transformation due to property of sequence. So again you find the image of linear combination of any two sequence. Call this sequence x and this sequence y having term y0 y1 up to yk up to infinity it will go. Then linear combination, so this transformation, it always preserve linearity. That's why this transformation is a linear operation. So we will again find important kind of subspaces. Those are what? Those are image of the transformation. So image would be, again it would be equal to the vector space L itself. L is talking about is collection of infinite sequence. And what would be kernel? Kernel would be, it would be a one dimensional subspace. How? Because here it is talking about it is collection of all the sequence which map to zero. So what would be collection? So if you apply the definition of kernel, through that you will say that every coordinate is zero except x naught. X naught is not zero. So that's why kernel of this transformation is what? Just it is a linear combination of the sequence having first entry 1 and rest of the entry are 0. So that means such kind of sequence is only one unique sequence. So that's why kernel is a linear combination of this sequence, a single sequence. So that's why it is a kernel is a one dimensional subspace, while image is a infinite dimensional subspace. Now, I think one more term I will introduce. After that, I will wind up today's class. Regarding attendance, I have already created a link. You go and mark your attendance. So now I will talk about linear transformation as an isomorphism. What is that? It is very much related with invertible linear transformation, what we had already discussed. So if you consider a five-dimensional linear spaces V and W, then a linear transformation from V to W, we will call it isomorphic if the kernel, just find out kernel of the transformation, and kernel is, if suppose it is a singleton set, then we can simply say that the linear transformation is isomorphism. Otherwise kernel of if kernel of T happens to be singleton set containing 0 only, then it is equivalent to say that the image of T happens to be the complete target space. It is image of T happens to be complete target space. So that is also another criteria of defining isomorphism. So furthermore, if there exists an isomorphism between any two linear subspace or linear space V and W, then we can say that V and W are isomorphic spaces. Like with respect to coordinate, we had already seen that if you are taking any kind of linear space, and that coordinate of any vector from that linear space happens to be n dimensional, then we can say that there is a isomorphism between those two spaces. So one example of isomorphism is invertible linear transformation. So whatever transformation if you are taking, and that transformation happens to be invertible, you can claim that that transformation is an isomorphism. That means it preserves the dimension of the uh, domain and codomain. So both will have the same dimension. Under isomorphism, both domain and target both would have same dimension. Another example, coordinate transformation, that I had already discussed. So if you are taking any n-dimensional vector and you define a coordinate transformation between n-dimensional vector and Rn with the help of coordinate, then that would be an isomorphism. Okay, thank you. Thank you for attending to this class. If you are having any doubt, you can ask other.